Hello, today I'll be covering part 3 of section 0.3, which is about proportions. A proportion is an equation of the form a over b equals c over d, where b and d cannot equal 0 since they're both in the denominator. The proportion states that two ratios are equal to each other. The proportion is read as a is to b as c is to d. To test whether a proportion is true, you can multiply by both denominators on both sides of the equal sign. Example 5. Determine whether each proportion makes sense. So 4/9 equals 12/28. So I'm going to multiply both sides by both denominators. On the left-hand side, the 9's cancel out. And on the right-hand side, the 28's cancel out. So we're left with, does 28 times 4 equals 12 times 9? Well, 28 times 4 is 112. And 12 times 9 is 108. Those do not equal each other. So this is a false proportion. Now, does 17.5 over 37.5 equal 7/15? Well, just like before, I'm going to multiply both sides by both denominators. On the left-hand side, the 37.5's cancel out. And on the right-hand side, the 15's cancel out. So then we have, does 15 times 17.5 equal 7 times 37.5? I'm going to do that off to the side here. So let's start out with 17.5 times 15. And now, since 17.5 has 1 decimal place and 15 has 0 decimal place, our answer needs to have 1 decimal place. So we get 262.5. Does that equal 37.5 times 7? And again, since the 37.5 has 1 decimal place and the 7 has 0, our answer should have 1. So the right-hand side comes out to be 262.5 as well. So this does equal. So this is a true proportion. How to find a value that satisfies or solves a proportion. Option 1, figure out what operation was used to move from one ratio to the other, either multiplication or division by a constant. Then perform this operation to find the unknown. Note, simplifying existing ratios may make this easier. Or option 2, multiply by both denominators on both sides of the equal sign to make a linear equation. So example 6, solve each proportion below. N over 84 equals 11 over 12. So in order to do this, I need to know 12 times what equals 84. Now you may know this or you may not, but it's 12 times 7 is 84. So that means N is 11 times 7. Or N has to be 77. For the next one, 117 over A equals 9 over 4, we need to find what number times 9 equals 117. Now I don't know what times 9 equals 117, but I do know what 9 times 12 is. That's 108. Now I'm just going to work up from there. Well, then 9 times 13 means I add 9 to that answer, so we get 117. Oh, that's the number I was looking for. So we take 9 times 13, which means to get A, we have to take 4 times 13. So A equals 52. Then finally, for the third proportion, 52 over 91 equals negative 4 over y. Well, here I want to get from 52 to negative 4. Well, I'm not going to multiply this time, but I'm going to divide. And since I'm going from a positive to a negative, I know I'm going to divide by a negative number. I'm not quite sure by what yet, but I will start off with 4 times 12, I know is 48. 4 times 13 would be 4 more, which is 52. Using that, I know I have to divide by negative 13. So in order to figure out what y is, we also have to divide by negative 13. So y is 91 divided by negative 13, which is negative 7. So that's how you can solve proportions with a variable or unknown. Example 7. You decide to open a sandwich shop because you are tired of the lines at Gus's. To make it easier, you're going to charge $4 for every 6 inches of sandwich and will make sandwiches in any size the customer would like. How much would a 15-inch sandwich cost? So to set up our proportions need the same thing on top and the bottom. So since I'm looking for cost, I'm going to put cost on top over size. So there's the there's the determined cost, which is $4 per every 6 inches. And this has to be same for every sandwich. But then, how much would a 15-inch sandwich would cost? Well, I know what the size is, so the 15 goes on the bottom. I don't know what the cost is. Now here, I don't know exactly 6 times what equals 15, but we can reduce the 4 over 6 first. So let's do that. 4 over 6 reduces to 2 over 3. After we do that, you can take the 3 times 5, which means 2 times 5 has to equal x. So x equals 10. So a 15-inch sandwich costs $10. And then the last example for this section is example 8. At the current time of day, the ratio of the length of the shadow cast by an object to the height of that object is 2 to 3. How long of a shadow does a 6-foot tall person cast? So here the ratio is the length of the shadow to the height of the object. So that tells me which goes on top and which goes on the bottom. So it's 2 over 3. And since I have a 6-foot tall person, 6 foot tall, that's the height. That means 6 goes on the bottom, and we're looking for the length of the shadow. Well, 3 times 2 is 6. So then I have to multiply 2 by 2 to get x equals 4. So the shadow of a 6-foot tall person is 4 feet. In part 2, if the shadow of a tree is 20 feet long, how tall is the tree? So again, where you still have the same ratio of shadow over height, which is 2 over 3. Now that I know what the shadow is, the shadow goes on top, and I need to know how tall the tree is. So I multiply by 10 to get from 2 to 20. So I multiply 3 by 10 to get x. So x equals 30. So the tree is 30 feet. And that is it for section 0.3.